Hello, and welcome to the Vineyard View. I'm your host, Ann Bassett, coming to you from MVTV, community television here on Martha's Vineyard Island. Today, my guest is my daughter. Dorothy Whiting is a actually famous Jack Russell Terrier breeder, and we're here to talk about her life with Jack Russells. We're going to talk about dogs that she's bred, national champions that she has produced. We're going to talk about the dogs that she lives with, and I'm going to show you lots of video of puppies. Nothing is cuter than videos of puppies. Dorothy, thank you for being here today.
Thank you.
Well, I'm really looking forward to our conversation. First of all, I love your dogs, and I'm their Grammy. And
Yes.
so, right. And you're holding Zen.
This
Tell
is
us about
Zen.
Zen.
This is Zen. He was born on my birthday last year, and he was the last of the puppies that I kept, and just fortunately, he won at the Nationals. Out of a large competition of dogs, he came in reserve best dog pup 4 to 6 months at the Nationals last year in Maryland.
Pretty impressive. And I know you've produced other national champions as well. Tell us about some of those.
Actually, getting into Jack Russells in 1985, when you have horses, you usually have grain, and when you have grain, you get rats. So you need a good Jack Russell to get rid of your rats. So the first pup I bought was just kind of a backyard, sweet little dog, Polo, who was very sweet, but as now we refer to them as puddins. He was a puddin, very short-legged, broad chest, cute little dog. Bought him first in 85, and then in 87 we bought Petunia at the Katama Dairy Farm, and she was our very first registered dog with the JRTCA, which is the Jack Russell Terrier Club of America.
Okay, I have a quick question. Some people don't know, but Jack Russell Terriers were not part of the AKC for many, many years. Talk about that.
The Jack Russell Club of America did not want to be part of the AKC. We believe in protecting, working, and promoting the Jack Russell. With the JRTCA, puppies are not registered just because they're born. They have to, you wait until they're a year old, you take them to the vet, you have a physical done on them, make sure that they have no genetic faults. You bring your pedigree and your stud certificate, which proves lineage, and photographs in which your vet signs the back of them to prove the dog. And then they are registered at 1 year of age. So when you've got registered dogs, you've got good quality dogs.
Very good point, and I hadn't thought about that. But at AKC, any dog can get registered just because it's born.
The moment they're born, you register them. The Jack Russell Terrier Club of America, we're our own club. We did not want to be AKC because we want to promote and protect these dogs. The AKC went ahead and decided to call them Parson Russells. So the strain of Jack Russell is in the AKC, but I consider us an elite group. They're all beautiful, well put together, well-bred dogs that will live a long time. You know, they're genetically sound, so they will live a long time, which they should.
Oh, that's another point I had never particularly thought of.
When people ask me, I just want a backyard puppy. You know, I don't want to, I love that. We don't want a show dog. We just want a couch potato. And I said, whether you get a show puppy or not, you get a genetically sound dog from me. Whether it's on your couch or in the field hunting raccoon or fox, you're going to get a genetically sound dog from me, whether you show or not. And for people, it's funny, when they say that they want just a pet, you also want that pet to live 17, 18 years. So it doesn't matter whether it's a show dog or not. They have to be a healthy dog.
Well, that's really interesting. Now, we do want to talk about one thing that does happen to puppies after they're born. Within a couple of days, their tails get docked. Mm-hmm. Why does that happen?
We dock the tails within 2 days of being born. Number one, you want a tail that is docked short enough in which you can grab with your hand, which is about 4 inches wide. Also, you want a tail that's docked because when they are underground going for their quarry, they can break their tail in a very tight tunnel, or the quarry drags them down into the tunnel and will kill them, the dog itself.
I hadn't thought of that.
Right. With fox and badger, they will grab that long tail and kill. So that's 2 reasons why you want a good 4-inch tail on your dog.
I had never thought about that. But they certainly are avid hunters, and that's another thing I want to talk to you about. You got them because they were just handy to have in the barn, and a lot of horse people have them just because of that reason. But they really are hunting dogs.
Right.
How do you prep them for a show, for instance, when you do go to ground? Can you describe go to ground for us?
Go to ground is a timed event. It's a simulated hunting experience where you've got a 30-foot tunnel above or below ground made out of wood. You want your dog to go to ground and go right to where the quarry is. So with go to ground, they have to stop at the quarry, bark and bay, not leave the quarry for 1 minute, and then you pick them right out of the box and release them. Go to ground is very important because you want your dog to go into a tunnel and be sure of themselves. But the wonderful thing about Jack Russell trials, we do not call them shows, we call them trials. There are so many events for each individual dog. I sold a puppy to a girl out in Colorado last year, and she said, "What classes do I put Tesla in?" And I said, all of them, because that puppy will tell you what she loves to do. Some love going to ground, some are just real couch potatoes but love their tennis ball. So what's wonderful about Jack Russell trials is you take the whole family, you bring the dogs. There is conformation, racing, go to ground, lure coursing, ball retrieval, agility, and once in a while muskrat racing, which is very interesting, which is a lure above water and the dog has to swim. And that's a timed event also.
I've never heard of them.
It's a lot of fun.
The Jack Russell races are hysterical.
Right.
Every so often with horse shows that are on television, they'll show you some Jack Russell. It's absolutely hysterical. Describe a Jack Russell race.
Jack Russell racing, it's 5 dogs in a box like greyhounds used to race. And they'll take a lure, which is either a fake pelt or usually a real fox pelt. And it's a timed event. And the racing people are very avid about their racing.
Well, the dogs are what are avid. It's interesting you talk about Jack Russells as couch potatoes. I think of Jack Russells as dogs that need a job. Give that dog a job because they're more intense than a lot of breeds. Correct me with my impression if you think I'm wrong, but I think that they're more intense and you do have to keep them busy because they're busy dogs.
People say that they're yappy, which you can prevent that very easily by training them not to be yappy. They do need a job. What I like to do is a good 15-minute tennis ball and tennis racket in the morning. A good 20 minutes will tire them out. They do need a job, so if you don't give them a job, they'll find one for themselves, right. Which could mean eating the couch or eating your Italian shoes. But if you just go out, give them some good attention in the morning, they will pretty much follow you anywhere the rest of the day. I don't consider them hyper. I really don't. They're active, but I don't consider them hyper. A good Jack Russell owner will get a good Jack Russell.
Oh, that's a very good point. And I agree with you. I don't think that they are hyper by any means, but they like to be active. But what you said was they want to do what you're doing. I don't care what you're doing. If you're typing on the computer, if you're going outside to do some yard work, they want to be with you. They want to do what it is that you're doing.
Right.
So don't get a Jack if you're going to be at work 8 hours a day, right?
Correct. When buyers call me, I ask them the first 3 questions. Do you work a 40-hour week? And if you do, and you're going to put your Jack Russell in a cage for the day, that's not going to work. If you do work a 40-hour week, the new thing these days is puppy daycare. So let's say people don't have children, they have dogs. They will go out and spend the money on that puppy and have their puppy go and be socialized all day, and you pick them up in the afternoon, and they've had a great day, and you've had a great day. The second question I ask is, do you have children under 7? They're not great with children. They really are not liking the tail and the ear tugging. They're more of an adult dog. They're very smart, and they don't like to be kind of picked on. They love children, and I've had some great experiences with selling puppies to kids. But pretty much an older child does much better with them. Third thing is you've got to have a fenced-in yard. The wireless or the electric fences that used to be wonderful really don't work these days because there's coyotes everywhere. An underground electric fence also doesn't help other dogs coming into your yard.
Oh, I'd never thought of that.
Right. So another dog can come into your yard and hurt your dog. You got to have fencing with them because if you're not going to take them hunting, they'll go by themselves. Whether it be a squirrel from tree to tree to tree, they'll go find something to do.
Absolutely. I've had that experience. 1 second they're there, the next second they're gone.
They're gone.
It's horrifying.
Right.
So when I come to your house, I love to be at your house because you have a big fenced-in yard.
Right.
And it's very easy to play with the dogs, and if you lose them for a second, you haven't lost them.
Right.
So,
Right.
Tell us about some of your favorite dogs. Now, I think that Tally was one of the most beautiful jacks. She was the most correct, the most gorgeous jack I've ever seen. She was absolutely wonderful. Talk a little about Tally. Well, actually, maybe we should start with Petunia, who had the temperament. Oh,
Yeah.
God, she was fabulous.
Right. Petunia was amazing. She really was. She was our very first jack, and Lisa actually picked her out. She had a brown saddle on her back. She was just a sweet little dog. I think it was 1987. My blacksmith had a stud dog, and we had our very first litter. And that was Petunia. And then, of course, so Foxy came along, and Foxy I absolutely loved. And she was a smooth coat. Conformation-wise, okay, but we could add a little better there. We could breed a little better. So Foxy, I sent to a breeder from Connecticut, and then had Funny. Funny, who then had Tally. Tally was my very first national champion. And Tally was an amazing dog. She was not only beautiful, but she was very smart and very in tune. And she was just the all-around dog. And I miss her very much. So I've had 2 bloodlines going. Let's see, I think we are now on my 6th generation. So I used outside studs for a lot of years and got my bloodline a little bit better, then had my own stud dog and used him.
Now, your first stud dog was Spago?
Spago. And Spago is now retired. He's almost 13. And he produced some lovely dogs, wonderful temperament. Retired him. And then in 2009, we bought Bentley. Went out and bought a beautiful stud dog from 2 girls. Absolutely beautiful dog. Had very high hopes for him. And his very first show, the only dog that beat him was his brother that the 2 girls had kept, Jabber. And after that, Bentley won puppy championship over and over and over again. Now he's 3 years old, and he produced Zen. And what I love about Zen is the temperament and the quiet. Bentley's temperament added to my bloodline beautifully. And quiet, sincere, in-tune dogs.
Oh, absolutely. Bentley, first of all, is absolutely gorgeous, but right in with your other dogs. I mean, you live in a house with a pack of dogs. Your dogs are not outside, locked up in kennels.
Right.
And he gets along with all of them, young, old, whatever. He has a beautiful temperament.
He does. He does. And I'm also one of a unique breeder, as in I don't have a kennel. I have 7 of my own dogs that are in my house. They have their little crates at night in which they sleep and eat individually. But I believe in bringing up puppies in the house. They're born in the bedroom in a box. They're raised in the living room. They're well socialized. And I spend an awful lot of time with them. I'm lucky enough to have time to spend with my dogs. And so I litter train them. And so when they're 8 weeks old and ready to leave, they're already pretty much housebroken, which is nice.
Oh.
And when you litter box train a dog, it's great because you can always bring out a litter box. Whether you're in a high rise or it's a hailstorm outside, they will use the litter box. So that's very convenient.
Gosh, yes, it is. And you have wonderful boxes for them when they're puppies. And you have 2 litters of puppies in your house at the moment. Talk about your 2 litters.
I had a litter born December 21st and another litter born December 28th. Sophia had 2 little girls all by herself at night, woke up in the morning, and there were the 2 pups. Turtle waited for me, and we had 5 boys. And this will be
5 boys.
5 boys. So they are all full brothers to Zen, who is national champion. And I have high hopes for them. They're absolutely beautiful, and they will be on camera before we know it.
There you go. Yes, one of the joys of my life is coming over to your house and filming puppies. And yours, another couple of weeks, and they'll be ready.
They'll be ready. They'll be ready.
Now, I want to talk a little bit about just as an observer, what my experiences are. Back in the day, it was usually you saw dogs with a lot of color. Now, if we're looking at Zen here, for instance, he's really a white dog with color on his head. So the breed standard, did it change a little bit?
A Jack Russell should be predominantly white. It needs to be at least 60% white, if not more. And the reason why you need a white dog is these are go-to-ground dogs. When they're after their quarry, and let's say they have their quarry cornered, you have to literally dig down to them. When a Jack Russell has their quarry cornered, you get out your pick and your axe and you start digging. You need a predominantly white dog so you can see the dog in the dirt. If you have a lot of color on the dog, you really can't decipher whether it's dirt or dog. And so you also want a little bit of color. Predominantly white dogs have deafness.
Like cats.
Right. So color is good. Now also one of the best breeders in the country has a very, very colored dog right now, and she's winning, which is kind of nice because color a few years ago was frowned upon. But as long as you have the color on the head or the base of the tail, that's fine. You need a little white dog to see them underground.
I'd never thought of that. Well, Zen, you fit the bill, don't you? Handsome dog. Kisses.
Hi, baby.
He's being very, very patient,
Yes.
I must say, very patient. So the dogs are not penalized for having too much color, but at 60%, there has to be 60% white. I never realized that.
Exactly. Another point in the show ring that you will find as soon as you really get into those champion classes are Jack Russells have 3 coats: smooth, broken, and rough coat. Broken and rough-coated dogs, as in Zen, as you see, he's got a great coat on him. He can go out in the cold and not get cold. He's got a very dense coat in which the water just washes off like a duck. So if you're in a champion class, a more hairy dog will actually win because the judge would rather take out a hairier dog. Whereas a smooth coat, kind of like Dalmatians and Dobermans, they get cold very fast. And smooth coat is also the recessive gene. The reason why I think this dog won at the Nationals, the first thing the judge said was, he's got a beautiful coat.
That's interesting because I know that in order to prep dogs for a show, you pluck them because some of them are so hairy you can't even see the dog.
Correct. Also, for the show ring, you want to hand strip them to get to where the judge can see the bone and feel the bone. So you don't want to take off too much coat. You want to preserve the coat in case you're out working in the cold or snow, and be perfectly happy in the snow and the rain and the hail. It doesn't bother them a bit. And they're English dogs. I mean, they're used to the English countryside. They're hardy little dogs.
Oh, that's a good point. They're also good on a boat.
They love boats. Actually, the people that called from the Caribbean yesterday are on a boat, and they just lost their dog after 17 years a month ago, and they're just devastated. And so they called, and I have the bloodline that they were looking for, and we'll get together very soon. They're very excited.
Nice,
So.
nice. What is it? That's the other thing about Jacks. They don't miss a trick.
No.
He hears a sound 3 rooms away.
Right.
and he'll let you know if he feels that you need to know.
Right.
Right. Yes, that's a sweet boy. So here you have these beautiful little sausages, these wonderful little puppies, and you start socializing them right away, and you start getting them ready, even if they're not going to be show dogs, you start teaching them how to stand with presence, right?
Right. The easiest way to train a puppy, I have found, whether they're going to be a show dog or not, when they're old enough to walk around in the kitchen, they kind of follow me into the kitchen, we do the cheese. I kind of train them with cheese. Get some little individual cheese slices in plastic, and you bring the puppies into the kitchen, and they kind of hear that plastic, and you kind of get their attention by just whispering. Psst. Psst. You're a good boy. You get their attention by a little whisper, and then you give them a piece of cheese. And they learn to stand. They stand beautifully on their own. There's no correcting them with your hands. And they will learn to stand beautifully and pay attention to you in the kitchen. So when you bring them into a show ring, you've trained them a lot. And you've trained them without them even knowing that they've been trained.
That's what I find impressive, yes. And when you get their attention, they're perky little dogs. I mean, the ears are up, the tail is up, and they're ready for anything. And that's what Jacks are good for.
Right, right. They're a great all-around dog. I love them very much. They're very intelligent, they're very sweet, they're very affectionate, they're portable. I love a dog that you can pick up, you know? So when they get skunked at 10 at night, you can put them right in the kitchen sink.
I remember you telling me, never own a dog that's too big to put in the kitchen sink.
Yeah, so, but they're absolutely wonderful. I can't imagine my life without them.
I have the distinction of being their grandma dog, so I get to see them from the time they're little, and I get to see them grow up. And then what's interesting is watching your dogs grow up and then get sold, etc., and then find out that they are not only champions, but they have their own website. They're in ads that I see in magazines and television. Talk about that a little bit.
I had one buyer, Barbara Allen from New York City, wanted a dog, and she was the first buyer that wanted to have a dog in the city, and I thought, not quite sure about that. But she was a yoga instructor, and she said, oh, I'm going to take this dog everywhere, and she did. And not only did that, but took the dog into agility, and actually rented a loft in New York City for all of her agility equipment to teach her dog agility. Double D, Miss Jonesy. She now is doing theater work. She did a national campaign ad last year on TV. She has some speaking roles in some television shots. She did a beautiful spread in Marie magazine last year with a beautiful model. So she's gotten a lot of work. And so because I had such a good experience with her, I sold 2 more dogs to 2 gentlemen in New York City. Those dogs get more exercise than, some farm dogs that, just kind of roam around. They go rollerblading, they go biking, they go walking, they go jogging. They can be a city dog, but you got to give them the exercise they need.
I have a quick follow-up to that story. Grammy and I were sitting in a restaurant in Edgartown and having a conversation, and I mentioned your name a couple of times, and one of the gentlemen in the booth behind us got up and came over and said, excuse me, are you talking about Dorothy Whiting? And I said, why, yes, we are. And he said, oh, we own one of her dogs. And he went on and on and on about how fabulous his dog was. Yeah. So that's the 2 gentlemen in New York City.
Right. Scout was there first, and they just bought Boo last summer. So, and they love her. So they have a smooth coat and a rough coat. And so, yeah, the family is complete.
Right.
They really love their dogs.
Now, how about Darlin' Darla?
Darlin' Darla was national champion and moved up to Canada with a judge up there. She did beautifully. It's also nice to sell dogs that become champion for other people, I just got a call 2 months ago that one of my puppies was showing in Georgia, down south, and I thought, how wonderful. And these buyers were from New Hampshire, and I thought, what in the world are you doing in Georgia? And she said, well, we have family, so why not bring the dogs? And the puppy took first in his class, which I was very proud of. And the judge said the only reason why he didn't take the champion was they gave it to the older dog. An older dog, you can see how far they've come. 4 to 6 months, an older dog will usually take it. You really know where that dog is going as far as bone, head, and coat.
All right. I know that when you talk to people and they buy your dog, sometimes they think they just want a couch potato dog.
Well, actually, if I could go back to selling a puppy to a couple, the husband called, and they'd never had a Jack Russell before, and he called and asked the questions, and he and his wife came and bought a beautiful little puppy for me. This was about 10 years ago. And I said, do me one favor, just take this dog to one show. Just one show, see how it goes. And they left and, didn't really hear from them. And later I heard, as the wife was driving down the driveway, I'm not going to a dog show. Why in the world would I go to a dog show? But the husband said, listen, we said we would. We'll take him to one dog show. And his name was Teddy. And Teddy went on to win so well in Go-to-Ground, they bought another dog from me. And they now Ditto has won 4 national championships in Go-to-Ground. She's an amazing dog. She is the dog to beat. For 3 years in the country, no one could beat her. And now she's retired, but it's wonderful having people take your dogs and getting your name out there.
Oh yes, as a breeder, every time they win a ribbon, you get the credit.
That's my name out there. Exactly, right. Exactly. So even though I've been breeding 25 years, you always get better. You always breed a better dog. You're always learning. I'm very proud of my dogs, and Bentley, contributing to this bloodline, Bentley is Zen's dad. Just a wonderful temperament, wonderful dog. They're just wonderful to have around.
Yeah.
You want them around.
Yes.
Isn't he funny?
He is, and he does pay attention to
Are
you.
you paying attention to me?
Yes, he does.
Very sweet. Yes, you are.
He is very sweet. Well, I'm particularly fond of Zen because when my mother was ill, when Grammy was ill, and in a hospital bed, you would bring Zen into the hospital, and he would just curl right up next to her. He was just, what,
was
3
little.
months,
Yeah.
4 months old
Yeah.
at the time.
Right. He was born in April.
Yeah. Right, and she was in the hospital in July.
Right.
So yeah, he was just the best dog. And when you would come to the house, I would love it because he's bored. We're talking. He's bored, but he'll just sit in my lap. And remember the cookout? He came and sat next to my foot and sat there for half an hour. Let's see, you brought Mini-Me at the same time. She talked to everybody. She went everywhere. Zen came over, sat next to my foot, and sat there for over half an hour.
Right.
I was so impressed.
He bonded with you immediately.
Yes.
And Graham. And
Yeah.
Graham. He loved Graham.
Yeah, sweet. Now, you did outsource at one time. Let's talk about Loblolly.
My husband was trucking horses south, back and forth in the spring and the fall. And I knew of a breeder down in North Carolina. Her kennel name is Loblolly, and I bought a beautiful little dog, Flicka, which absolutely beautiful dog. A little shy.
Well, I thought of her as a kennel dog.
Yeah.
Poor thing. She just never got socialized right.
Right. But she was wonderful, and she let's see, she produced Daphne.
Daphne.
Who won 2 national titles, and Daphne was just my love. Very smart, very bold and beautiful. And so, having a couple different bloodlines, you get some good temperaments out of them. You want to outsource a little bit. You don't want too much of the same blood, but also when you're breeding, you need to kind of dissect your female and decide what she needs to improve her puppies. Let's say she's got a little bit of a short neck. You need a stud with a longer neck. She doesn't have enough angulation in the back. You want a heavily angled dog in the back. So I'm always striving for a better dog, better dog, better dog.
Yes, but what has always impressed me is you're always looking for a better dog, but the first thing is temperament.
Right.
And that to me is the most important thing.
Right.
I think that some breeders get carried away with what the dog looks like and not what the dog is like to live with.
Right. I didn't have a stud for years because I would watch the stud dogs before going into the ring, and all the studs would be looking at each other, either wanting to fight or they would be relieving themselves on their owner's leg. And I thought, I don't want to live with that. So I outsourced. I used studs from other kennels, which was great. And then I decided one day to keep my own stud puppy, which was Spago. And Spago, with that sow's ear bloodline, was just very sweet and wonderful and not a fighter and, very relaxed. Absolutely loved him. He was a wonderful stud dog for all the years that we had him. He's now neutered and is just a big couch potato.
Yes. Spago's getting old.
Yeah,
it's sad.
Spago's getting old. But Bentley was such a wonderful addition. And Zen will be going for his last championship in April, and then he will go into his adult classes in May.
Well, good for you. And he looks at the camera. How does he know to look at the camera? That's funny.
Are you a good boy?
You are a good boy.
Kiss. Papa.
Okay, I have some really fun video that I'm going to be showing while we're talking. And Bentley is in the backyard playing and just having a wonderful time. And there are puppies all around.
Right.
And he's no threat to those puppies at all.
Not at all. Not at all. Temperament is key. I've seen some beautiful dogs at shows, and when you watch them, being ill-tempered, either towards people or other dogs, that's just not a dog that you want. So you have to have not only a beautiful dog, but they have to have a great temperament, because you're passing it on. You want to pass on a great temperament.
Right. And you were talking earlier about some of your dogs and sizing up the females and then picking a male to augment her weaknesses with his strengths. But it's also been interesting watching your dogs. You got the most beautiful dog in the world, Tally, from Funny, who was not a great Jack.
Right.
But because of the breeding that you picked out, she threw a national champion.
Right, right. My two bloodlines are based on David Jones. David Jones is out of England. He's an incredible breeder and judge. All of his dogs have one name, and then their last name is Jones. So that's how you can tell. Flicka's father was Treacle Jones, and Tally's father was Kent Jones. And they were both imported from England. So both my bloodlines go right back to the same breeder. I've not yet met David Jones. I hope to. I hope he comes back to the States. I think he has the most impressive dogs. When I knew that Flicka's father was a Jones dog, I said, we've got to get that dog. So, yeah, I consider him the best breeder.
Wow. Well, now you mentioned judges, and we've been talking about taking your females to other breeders, and now of course you're having dogs coming to your house. How does that work? A female, when she comes in heat, can be bred X number of times for how long?
With females that come into heat, it's pretty much a 30-day cycle from start to end. I breed between the 10th and the 17th day. The eggs are released on a daily basis. You breed 2 or 3 times, usually 48 to 72 hours apart. I've also, you kind of learned only breed a short amount of time. You want all those puppies to be baking at the same time in the oven. Having a female come to my house, it's a wonderful experience for them because they're in the house. They're not out in a cold barn or garage. They'll be bred and then sent home.
And when you mention grooming, you not only hand pluck them for shows and washing them in the sink every so often. That really is pretty much all you have to do. I mean, they're pretty much wash and wear dogs, right?
They are. That's what's great about Jack Russell trials is they're a natural dog. We're not primping and coloring and tattooing and doing all those strange things that you can get away with the AKC. What you see is what you get. There's no fancy clipping in which you can make a dog look a little different. So this is a natural dog that is hands-on. They have their teeth checked. They have a correct bite. The dogs have their chest spanned to make sure it's nice and flexible to go underground. And also to see that he's an intact male. He is. So he's ready for the big boy class.
Okay, you're going to keep him as a stud dog?
I am.
Because his temperament is so amazing.
Because his temperament's amazing.
And he's a national champion.
And he's a national champion.
What's not to like?
Right. So
and his registered name is Double D Zen?
Yep. Actually, he's not registered yet. He'll be registered in April.
When he's a year old.
But Bree, who was born 12/12/12, just got her registration papers the other day. So she's registered.
Oh my goodness.
So he'll be next.
Oh gosh. Bree the teenager.
Yeah, she's a year old.
Amazing. I'd like to know more about the education you've had from other breeders and from judges in the ring. And sometimes, of course, breeders are judges.
Exactly. Very interesting show season in 2013. I was showing at the end of the summer. There was a judge in front of me with her puppy. So I'm in the same class with judges. You never know who's judging the next show. They are breeders and judges. Sandra Ferber's dog placed in front of us on a Saturday, and then she was judging Sunday, and she placed him first. So it's very nice when judges like your dogs. It means an awful lot when you're in that champion class because you are up against the best breeders in the country.
In the country.
Right.
Now, you belong to the national organization, but there's also a New England one, isn't there? Or an East Coast one?
The Yankee Jack Russell Terrier Network is our New England club. Wonderful people, very dedicated to the breed. We do a lot of fun days, which is great. That's how you get your families to come and participate, and they get to, there's no pressure, What I love about this family dog is, maybe you'll have Susie who's only 7 or 8 years old, but she can do the little ball retrieval with her dog. And then maybe the teenage boy wants to take that dog racing because he wants to race that dog fast. And then But maybe dad wants to do a little trailing and locating, where the dog does a natural hunting path, which is actually, I'm really getting into the trailing and locating. You do a simulated experience where, let's say you're out in the field and a fox has been there, but you don't know exactly where that fox is. So you need to follow the scent. So trailing and locating, it shows they will take fox urine mixed with glycerin and do a particular path, and the dog has to work that scent. It's also a timed event, but there are points taken off and points given for the attitude of the dog. And there's nothing more wonderful than watching a dog do what they're supposed to do.
I couldn't agree more.
Naturally, you know, not man-made.
Right.
But watching a Jack Russell put his nose on the ground and go find what he's supposed to find is amazing. So you start out in the morning racing, then you've got your confirmation, and then you can run off and do your go-to-ground or your lure coursing. Lure coursing is fun. It's an 1/8 of a mile track, which they follow a little white plastic bag, which kind of looks like a little white rabbit. That's a timed event. All you have to do is, you know, if let's say someone has no experience at all showing, all you have to do is show up with your dog, you know, take the leash off, put the dog down, they start the lure, and boom, the dog goes. And races and has so much fun. And sometimes you hear them barking the whole time, having a wonderful time. So it's such a family affair. And I've made some incredible friends. Dog people are unique, you know. They're wonderful people. They're with you the good days, the bad days, year round. We all support each other and love each other, and so it's not just the Jack Russell families, but it's all of our families put together. Thank goodness for Facebook. That's brought all of my friends closer to me. Before I had Facebook, you get on the phone and you talk to people. Living on an island is unique. You don't just hop in your car and go visit people. So yes, I have a Double D Jack Russell Facebook page.
And a website.
DoubleDJackRussells.com. That's where you'll find all of my past and present champions. I have a wonderful webmaster. There are a lot of pages. So it's about us and when and where we started and why we started, the dogs that we've had, the dogs that we've sold, and it's been over 25 years. And
oh my word. Yeah.
It's really flown by
That's
fast.
Right. And you have really established yourself with quite a reputation as a breeder of national champions.
Yep.
Right, that's wonderful. Now, we've talked about favorite dogs, but I haven't mentioned Brick. I have to talk about Brick.
Brick. Yeah.
Brick.
She just came home yesterday. Yeah, she's been off visiting. Came back yesterday and came right in the house and just was so excited to see the puppies. She's a wonderful little dog.
Talk about Brick and Jazz.
Brick and Jazz. I just watched that video last night with Ken. Brick loves horses more than anything. And if you couldn't find Brick, she was always with Jazz, under his feet.
Under his feet?
They have a real affinity for horses. Matter of fact, you need to come and video Bentley. Bentley follows Penny. When I'm on Penny, Bentley started this funny little thing at home in the morning when you're barefoot, and he would kind of kiss the back of your heels as you're walking. He licks your heels. Thought that was cute and funny, and he does it in the morning, and I never really thought much of it. Well, I took him out one day while I was riding Penny, and he started doing it with the horse. And I thought, this is not probably a great idea, 1,600-pound Percheron horse. But the horse loves Bentley, and so Bentley will follow that horse anywhere she goes.
I'll be darned.
Yep. I take them on trails, and Dan took photos one day, and Sophia was jumping the jumps with me on Penny. I mean, it's pretty funny.
Yes.
So they'll follow you anywhere. They really will.
Well, it amazed me watching Jazz, who was very animated and absolutely gorgeous to watch. Brick would be right under his feet. I mean, right, if he ran one and then ran the other, she was right with him. He never stepped on her.
Never. And it's funny using the ball and tennis racket. Some dogs go after the ball, but then you'll also have dogs that'll sit back like Zen, and he's kind of that football player, you know, trying to get the ball before the ball gets back to me. So we have offensive, defensive, you know. You should see Sophia. She can fake anybody and get that ball back to me. And yeah, Zen sits on my feet. He doesn't want to chase the ball. He wants the ball to come back and just kind of hang out. So he's very, very quiet for a puppy, which I love. Psst, 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 Zen. What's up? You're pretty mellow. You're pretty mellow.
Yes, he is. You've been very patient to sit here for all of this time. Very, very patient. Now, when you go to a show, these shows are rated, and when your dogs win ribbons, there's a point system, and then at the end of the showing season, if you have X number of points, you can go to the nationals. Is that correct?
Actually, no, we don't do points.
Oh, you don't?
We don't do points. With all puppies can be shown without being registered, which is fine. With the adults, they need to be registered. So any registered or recorded dog can come and show. You don't necessarily have to have there is not a point system to go to nationals. If you're winning, you keep going. Obviously,
Yes.
if you're third, fourth, fifth, sixth, you know you're not in the top 3.
Right.
But you can also go to different trials. You have different judges. You have different judges in different areas. You have different judges looking for different things.
Yes.
What's great about a 2-day trial is you'll have 2 different confirmation judges, one from England, one from America. They will have very different views of their dog or what they're looking for. And as any person that shows a dog, it's the best dog on that day. Some dogs will just come out and just present themselves and say, I'm the best thing here.
Best on that day. I love that. Well, Dorothy, good luck in April.
Thank
and
you.
good luck, Zen, in
Thank
your
you.
class coming up. Last class is a puppy. And then he gets to compete as an adult.
But very excited that Turtle's boys are full brother to Zen. So I've already produced national champion with
that
Bentley and
bloodline.
Turtle.
Yes.
And this will be Turtle's last litter. She's such a great dog. You know, it's funny. She's just kind of one of those dogs that's not the greatest looking dog, but she produces the best dogs. She produced Brick. She produced Dirty Girl. The best dogs I have.
Yeah.
All out of Turtle.
You're right.
So this is her last son that will continue on the tradition.
Dorothy, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for being here with Zen. Zen, this is your premiere performance. This is wonderful. So we're going to look for you in the show ring. We're going to look for you doing trials. We're going to look for Zen and see how his reputation goes. We're going to go to Double D Jack Russell's and see your website, and we'll keep up with his career there, won't we?
Definitely. Thank you so much for having me. It's been so much fun.
Oh, this has been fun. This has been the Vineyard View. I'm your host, Ann Bassett, saying keep your eye on MVTV and keep your eye on Double D Jack Russell's. They're going places.